Imagine an era where every Monday night felt like the Super Bowl, where the lines between heroes and villains are blurred, and where pop culture and wrestling collide like never before. Get ready to dive into the most electrifying chapter in wrestling history. This is the Attitude Era. Let's go. Psst, hey, this is the perfect time to like and subscribe to the video. I'll be putting more sports telling stories out like this in the future, so like and subscribe, turn them noties on. We start this story with the early sparks in 1996. The wrestling world was about to be shaken to its core. In 1996, the iconic Stone Cold Steve Austin uttered those words that would become so legendary. Austin 316 says, I just whipped your ass. And then at the very end of that, he closed it out with, and that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. This wasn't just a catchphrase, this was the beginning of a wrestling revolution. Because around the same time, mysterious figures like Mankind and Kane were being debuted, bringing a new level of hardcore wrestling to the WWF. And as these sparks ignited in the WWF, the WCW's formation of the NWO added a lot of pressure on the WWF to innovate and push boundaries, setting the stage for what was about to come in the years following, which led us to the birth of the Attitude Era in 1997. The turning point really came in 97 with the infamous Montreal Screwjob of the Survivor Series, where Bret the Hitman Hart was really supposed to win the match. It was all set in stone, but was ultimately screwed by Vince McMahon at the end. So going into that a little bit more, during the WWF Championship between Bret the Hitman Hart and Shawn Michaels, WWF owner Vince McMahon and referee Earl Hebner, along with other WWF employees, secretly changed the match's predetermined outcome to favor Shawn Michaels without Bret the Hitman's Hart knowledge, causing him to lose the title. The term screwjob refers to the fact that the match's ending was changed without one of the wrestlers knowing. When we talked about the WWF pushing those boundaries a little bit earlier, well, it was known that Vince was trying to make the show more edgier, and that really started to show when Bret, one of the biggest stars at the time, was betrayed by Vince. And that ultimately led to the transformation of Vince McMahon into the evil Mr. McMahon character. And this event really marked the birth of the Attitude Era. It's funny because a man by the name of The Rock was brought into the Nation of Domination as a heel with D'Lo Brown and Farouk. Again, adding to the era's edgier and more unpredictable future. So let's fast forward just a little bit further to 1998, to the rise of the anti-heroes. When 98 rolled in, Stone Cold's feud with Mr. McMahon became the central storyline of WWF programming. Austin's rebellious antics, including driving a beer truck to the ring and soaking the Boss and The Rock, captured the imaginations of millions of people across the nation. And we surely can't forget about him attacking Vince in the hospital. I mean, these type of things are what set up the WWF to ultimately beat out WCW at the end. The Rock's evolution was equally fascinating. As I mentioned, he started as a despised heel on the Nation of Domination, but he quickly transformed into the charismatic People's Champion, known for his sharp wit, electrifying presence, and his love for poontang pie. Pairing the most electrifying entertainer with the Rattlesnake, along with supernatural talents like The Undertaker, Kane, and Mankind, added so much depth to the WWF's lineup. It was like every Monday night is the Super Bowl. And with fiery inferno matches, dramatic Hell in the Cell counters, this eventually brought on the faction warfare in 1999 that kept fans on the edge of their seats every Monday and Thursdays. 1999, faction warfare. The stage was set in 1999 for faction warfare. The corporation featuring Mr. McMahon and now The Rock embodied corporate greed and control, often clashing with fan favorite anti-heroes such as Stone Cold. You add in other factions like D-Generation X, led by Triple H and Shawn Michaels. These guys continue to entertain with their irreverent humor and boundary-pushing skits. If you don't know about D-Generation X, I got two words for you. Now, there was other small little factions, but one of my favorite ones was the Ministry of Darkness, led by The Undertaker. It really introduced a darker, more sinister tone to the storylines, but these groups weren't just about numbers. They were about making statements, controlling the narrative, and making sure that they were the ones contending for the titles. The Ministry of Darkness was all good, but it really reached a peak, and really all the faction warfare reached a peak when the Corporate Ministry was established by Shane McMahon. Corporate Ministry was born from the union of the corporation led by the villainous Mr. McMahon and the Ministry of Darkness led by The Undertaker. This merger happened in 1999, consolidating their strength and influence in WWF, Some of the key members in this group were The Undertaker, Shane McMahon, Triple H and China, the Acolytes, which were Bradshaw and Farouk, Mideon and Viscera, and the Big Boss Man. Rock didn't make it to the corporate ministry. He was out after the corporation had finished. Maybe we do a story later on about the corporate ministry. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Towards the end of 99 and 2000, the Attitude Era really reached its peak popularity. New additions like the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, and Edge and Christian revolutionized the tag team division with their high-flying Daredevil style, culminating in really crazy legendary matches such as the TLC match, Hell in the Cell, and of course the legendary cage matches. Hands down, one of the most iconic rivalries in wrestling history is the Rock and Stone Cold's rivalry over the WWF Championship. That rivalry captivated audiences every single night, with their intense battles becoming highlights of the year. Rock's witty, smart-ass mouth and Stone Cold's I don't give a damn attitude clashed perfectly on air. Other memorable matches like the Hell in the Cell bout between Undertaker and Mankind, where Mankind was thrown off the cell. Matches like that set new standards for brutality and storytelling in wrestling. And again, really pushed that edgier content on to the wrestling fan. Behind the scenes, there was a fierce ratings battle known as the Monday Night Wars. WWF Raw, WCW's Nitro went head-to-head, pushing each other for new heights. And as we talked about, Vince McMahon created risks such as embracing the more edgier content and introducing the McMahon character, which played a vital and crucial role in turning the tide in WWF's favor. Also, key defections from WCW such as Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Benoit to the WWF added fresh talent and more depth into an intensified competition. This really all led to the eventual Invasion storyline. Following the WWF's purchase of WCW, this marked the beginning of the end of the Attitude Era, leading to the eventual transformation of WWF into WWE. The early 2000s saw a shift when WWF transformed and the storylines really evolved. The Invasion storyline, the rise of new superstars like Brock Lesnar, and there was a few tragic deaths of beloved wrestlers that really marked the end of this iconic period. However, its legacy lives on today like crazy. It still influences today's wrestling, still see wrestlers from that era who show up to wrestle, and it really had a big impact on 90s pop culture and even into the 2000s. The Attitude Era influence extends far beyond wrestling ring. It affected fashion, music, and television, becoming a cultural phenomenon across the world. The Rock, Stone Cold, and Undertaker became household names with their catchphrases and personas crossing over into the mainstream pop culture every week. You saw WWF's collaborations with celebrities like Mike Tyson, Donald Trump, and this really played a pivotal role, further cementing its place in mainstream culture. On top of that, video games, action figures, and even WWF-themed music albums kept the Attitude Era's influence alive outside the squared circle. The groundbreaking promos and segments are so memorable that here's one.
What is your name? It doesn't matter what your name is.
I mean, the Attitude Era was known for its unforgettable promos and segments. The Rock's countless catchphrases, Austin's rebellious stunners on McMahon, and DX's infamous invasion of WCW were just so entertaining, they were revolutionary. These segments were raw, edgy, and often broke the fourth wall, engaging fans in ways that had never been done before in wrestling. In conclusion, the WWF Attitude Era was more than just a period in wrestling history. It was a revolution that captivated millions and left an incredible mark on pop culture. From the unforgettable rivalries and iconic matches to the larger-than-life personalities that defined the era, it remains the gold standard of professional wrestling. Ask anybody you know, what's the best era of wrestling? I guarantee you, they say the Attitude Era. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives and short storytellings like this in the future. I love y'all and miss y'all, and come back for the next vid.